Hi, this is Brian with Webucator. Today we're going to be looking at the AlertifyJS JavaScript framework. This allows us to create browser dialogues and notifications that might replace the standard browser window.alert or window.prompt dialogues that you're used to using in your applications. Thanks a lot to Mohammed for letting us create this video. To get started, go to AlertifyJS.com. Once you're there, you can view it on GitHub if you want to see the source code and dive into that, or you can just click download. I'm going to go ahead and download it now. You can see that it's going to download an alertifyjs.zip file. If I extract that out, you can see that inside the alertifyjs file, we have alertify.js and alertify.min.js. Those are really just the same file. The min is just a minified version. In my demos, I'm going to be using the full alertify.js file. That way, in case we run into any sort of error, we'll be able to easily debug that. There's also a CSS folder, and you're going to need this as well. Inside there, we have the alertify.css file. I'm going to be including that. Most likely in your production application, you'll want to be including the alertify.min.css file as well when using the minified files. We also have a themes folder, and if I take a look in there, you can see that there's some additional themes that come with the AlertifyJS framework, but we'll just be using the default.css file. Okay, let's take a quick look at some demos. So I'm going to go to alertifyjs.com. I'm going to click on examples, and I just want to show a couple examples that he's put together for us. The first one here is the Bootstrap example. Just to show you, you can use the Bootstrap theme, and this looks very much like Bootstrap if you're used to using the Bootstrap dialogues, and it kind of gives you some of the same look and feel as Bootstrap. The license agreement's pretty cool. You can see if I click run that I get prompted with a license agreement here that I can either accept or decline. If I hit accept, I get this alert down at the bottom that says that I accepted. And there's also a pretty cool one that he's put together, which is the buttonless generic dialog. And this is an example where he's created a custom dialog using the dialogs factory to have a login prompt. So when I click the run button here, you can see that I get a custom form here with multiple inputs and labels, and I can click login and it'll authenticate, and if everything goes through, I get a success message saying that I was authenticated. Now let's take a quick look at some of the demos that I've put together. And these demos follow right along with the documentation, and I'll be referencing the documentation throughout the video. The first one I want to look at is the alert. The alert method in Alertify allows us to replace the standard window.alert JavaScript dialog that we're used to in the browser. Here I've just got a simple button that says show alert. I click that. You can see that we get our nice alert that comes up. And I've customized the message simply to say this is an alert, and you click OK and it dismisses. So simple enough, but very easy to use, and you'll also see very customizable. We can also ask the user to confirm, so if we click please confirm, I'm now get a choice to click OK or cancel. If I click OK, you can see that I'm showing you clicked OK in the bottom right. And if I do that again and click cancel, you can see that it says you clicked cancel. And these alerts here are also part of AlertifyJS, and I'll be using those in some of the demos you'll see. Okay, and now let's take a look at the prompt. So again, this is to replace your standard window.prompt. If I click prompt me, it's going to ask me what is your first name. It's just a single text input field that we have here. I'm going to put my name Brian. I'm going to click OK. And then I get an additional alert that comes up that says hello Brian. Alright, hit OK, and there it goes. Cool. The last one is the dialog factory, and we'll look at this last. This is going to allow us to create a customized dialog built on top of AlertifyJS. Here I've built two examples really. The first one is to show a success dialog. You can see that I've customized this here with a nice green check icon that's being displayed in the header. And I also have a show failure. Again, I've customized the header here to have this red indicator that shows that something went wrong. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of the code behind our first one, which was just the simple alert where we are showing the message, this is an alert. I'm going to jump into Adobe Brackets, and you can see here that I've got an HTML file and I've named it alert.html. And it's pretty simple, but let me walk through what I've done here. The first thing I've done on line 5 is I've included the jQuery library. I've done that just so I can use some jQuery to get access to our elements and to attach some event handlers, which will be firing off the Alertify code. On line 6, I've included the Alertify.js library. On line 7, I've got the Alertify.css style sheet. And then on line 8, I've got the default theme CSS file included. Then on line 9, I've created a script tag, and inside the script tag, and in each of my examples, this is where the beef of the code is. This is where my JavaScript is that's actually going to be using AlertifyJS. Let me skip over the code for now and go down to the bottom. And you can see that in the body, I just have a simple button. And the button has a class of run and has the text show alert. Jumping back into the JavaScript code, on line 10, I'm using the $shorthand function in jQuery to detect the DOM content load event. So once the DOM content has been loaded and we're ready to go, I can attach some event handlers to my button to fire up Alertify.js. If we look at line 13, this is just straight jQuery here. I'm using the selector, CSS selector, to get the run button using the class.run. And I'm attaching a click event handler to that button. So when the user clicks on that, the code inside my anonymous function is going to be executed. On line 14, this is where we're really going to start using Alertify. So the main class that you're going to be using is called Alertify, and inside that we're going to be calling the alert function. And that alert function will create a new instance of the alert object, so to speak, and on that we can chain our methods. So just like jQuery uses chaining, which is very popular in JavaScript, the Alertify.js supports chaining your methods together. So I can call alertify.alert, and then on the object that's returned from the alert function, I can then call the show method, which will then show the alert. The first argument to the alert is the string, and that's the message that's going to be shown. And in this instance, I'm passing the string, this is an alert. Let me just jump over to the documentation real quick. If we go up to Components and then choose Alert, you can see here that Mohammed has outlined the documentation for the alert function, and you see that the standard way to call it is right here. And so the first argument would be your title, the title of the dialog. The second argument is the message, the contents inside the dialog. And then the third argument is a callback function called onOK. And this is going to be invoked when the user clicks the OK button or closes the dialog. He's also got some optional constructor arguments that we can use on the alert method. And those are overloaded, so we can either pass just the message, or we can pass the title and then the message, or we can pass the message and then the onOK callback function. And you're going to see me use a couple different variations of this, of the alert constructor, as well as some of the other components such as the confirm and prompt. So in this instance, I'm using just the alertify.alert and passing in the message. And that matches up with what we have here on line 14. Let's go ahead and take a look at another example. In this instance, I'm going to customize the OK button. So let's go ahead and save this and take a look at this in the browser. So if I reload alert.html and click show alert, you can see now that the OK button has been replaced with the text got it. And if I click got it, it closes the alert. Let's take a look at the code behind this. Again, on line 18, I'm attaching my event handler to the click event. On line 19, I'm calling the alertify.alert method. And again, I'm just passing in the message that we're going to show. This is an alert with a custom OK button. I'm then using the instance that's returned from the alert function and storing that into a local variable called alert. On that local variable, I can then use the set function to set any of the settings for AlertifyJS. And you'll see later on that there's some other ways to set these. We can chain them together, or we can call the set method, the set method. And there's also a get method as well if we want to get any of the values of any particular setting. In this instance on line 20, I'm calling the set method, and I'm going to be setting the label to the value got it. I'm then going to be calling alert.show on line 21 to show the alert. Alright, let's take a look at another example here. And in this instance, I'm going to be using the onOK callback function. So again, let's save this and take a look at it in our browser. If I click on show alert, you can see that I'm going to have a message that says let's do something after you click OK. And then after you click OK, I've got this little message that comes up in the bottom right that says you clicked OK. So let's take a look at the code for that. Again, on line 26, I'm creating a new instance of the alert. So I'm calling alertify.alert and passing in my message. On line 27, now I'm setting the setting on OK. On OK is going to accept a function which will be executed when the user clicks the OK button. Inside that, I am calling the success, alertify.success, and that just shows our the little green message that comes up at the bottom right of the browser, and I'm putting in the message to show inside that. So it says you clicked OK. And then the last thing on line 30, I'm showing the alert. So again, if we take a look at that, you can see here that I click OK. There we go. There's our message. You clicked OK. And that comes right up from here. Now let's take a look at another example. In this instance, I'm going to be using one of the other overloaded constructors. So I'm going to be calling alertify.alert, and then I'm going to pass in first the message and then the onOK callback function. You can see that on line 36, I'm calling alertify.alert. I'm passing in the message, and then my second argument is an anonymous function that's going to be executed when the user clicks OK. And in this instance, I'm also going to just show the alertify.success with you clicked OK. After the alert is called, and this, let me put my cursor actually right here, you can see that brackets will highlight in green the closing parentheses. And so here I'm doing the chaining again. So after alert, that's going to return our alert instance. I'm then calling the dot show on what's returned from alert, rather than using the local variable alert like I did previously. So just to show you another way we can do this, this should be the exact same as before. So if I hit reload and hit show alert, let's do something after you click OK. Click OK, and we get our message. Okay, now let's take a look at the confirm.html file. Okay, on line 14, you can see that I'm calling AlertifyJS.confirm. Let's go ahead and switch over to the documentation, take a look at the confirm. Okay, you can see that here on the confirm dialog. Again, Mohammed's got our default usage specified for us, so we can call alertify.confirm, and we can pass in the default is 4 arguments. First, the title, which again is the dialog title and the header, the message, our onOK, and then this time we have a new callback function called onCancel. And if you guessed it, this is going to be invoked when the user clicks the cancel button or closes the dialog. Okay, let's jump over to our code, take a quick look at this. Like I said, on line 14 here, we're going to, this time we're calling the confirm function, so we do alertify.confirm. We're going to pass in the message. This time I'm going to choose, put the message, choose wisely. And then I've got the second argument. Let me just kind of highlight it just to show you where it starts and ends. This is our onOK function. So this is going to be called when the user clicks OK. And as you can see on line 15, I'm going to be calling the success function again with you clicked OK as the message. And then our third argument, again I'm going to highlight this, make it a little easier. Our third argument is again a function, and this is the callback function for onCancel. And when the onCancel event is triggered, we're going to be calling alertify.error, and we're going to show the message you clicked cancel. Again, at the end of calling the confirm, if I highlight this, you'll see the matching closing parentheses. So on the confirm result, the object that's returned, we then call the show to show the actual confirm window. So let's save that. Let's take a quick look at that in our browser. So now if I click the please confirm button, now I get the message choose wisely, and I can click OK, and I should get you clicked OK as the message because our on click or on OK was fired. And then if I click cancel, we should get the you clicked cancel message. Okay, cool. Now let's take a quick look at customizing those labels. So let me comment out the first one, and let's take a quick look at this example. Again, on line 23, I'm calling the alertify.confirm constructor function, and that is going to be passed the message do you agree, and then we're going to be calling .setting. So right here you can see I'm calling the setting function. Again, I'm chaining this to the confirm, and then I'm calling setting, and inside there I'm going to be passing in a object, and that object is going to set all of the settings. Rather than calling .set like we did before, we can set the properties or the values for multiple settings in one object here. So here I'm going to be specifying the labels setting, and that's going to accept an object with an OK and cancel property. And then I've just customized the OK button to be agree, and I've customized the cancel button to be the string cancel. So let's just get rid of the rest of that for now and hit save, and let's take a quick look. So now if I click please confirm, you can see that I get agree and cancel as the two options. Oops. The next setting that I want to do is I want to reverse the buttons. So if you remember, I have the agree on the left. I think it'd be nice if the agree was on the right, because that's kind of like the default action. So let's just switch these. To do that, I'm going to be using the reverse buttons setting, and I'm going to set that to true. And I also want to note here, because this caught me by accident, I actually spelled this reverse buttons with a lowercase b, and that's not going to work. It's case sensitive, so make sure you use the camel case reverse buttons when specifying this setting. I'm also going to set our onOK to be a function that's going to be executed again when the user clicks the OK button. And then I'm also setting the onCancel setting so that way we execute a function, and we're going to call alertify.error again when the user clicks the cancel button. At the end of calling the setting function, I'm then going to call the show function to show our confirm. Just to show you, if we switch over real quick to the documentation, if I go all the way down to the bottom here, this is where I found the information for the setting method. So he says here that you can use the setting method to set multiple values at once. It also works as a getter, so you can get multiple values at once. Or you can use the get and set aliases, and I was using that before. I was using the .set to set a property. And so there's also those getters and setters available for you to use as well. So let's take a look at our confirm. So now I've switched the buttons. Now if I hit agree, it says you agree. And if I hit cancel, it says you did not agree. Okay, cool. Now let's take a look at the prompt. So again, the prompt is just like the window.prompt generic built-in JavaScript function that prompts the user to enter a value. The AlertifyJS prompt also does the same thing, and will be alerting or prompting the user to enter their first name. Again, let's take a look at the code here. On line 15, I'm calling alertify.prompt. The first argument that I'm passing in is the message, what is your first name? The second argument is the value to show, and I'm passing in null, so that way we don't show any value initially. And then the third argument that I'm passing in is the onOK callback function. And this callback function, as you can see, is going to accept two arguments, or be passed two arguments. The first being the event object, and the second being the value that the user entered. Inside that callback function, I'm going to call alertify.alert. So I'm just going to open another alert window here. And then I'm going to be just saying hello, comma, and then the value that the person entered, which is their first name. And then I'm going to show that alert. Let's take a look at this in Google Chrome. If I click prompt me, I'm going to get prompted, what is your first name? I'm going to enter Brian, click OK, and you can see that I get hello, comma, Brian. Very cool. Now let's take a look at the factory. And before I do that, let me just jump over real quick to the documentation again. And this is a really well laid out documentation. So you can see that the dialog factory kind of extends the functionality of AlertifyJS. And it's also important to know that the components that we were looking at previously, the alert, confirm, and prompt components, are actually built using the dialog factory. So in this instance, we're just creating our own Alertify dialog, so to speak, that then we can reuse throughout our application code. So the dialog factory allows us to create our own dialogs, and you can see here that the dialog will have a header, contents, an auxiliary button, and a primary button. And if I scroll down a little bit, you can see that here's all the documentation on how to use the factory function. And the factory function really allows us to build all the configuration parameters to tell AlertifyJS how our dialog should work and behave. So there's a lot of different options in here, so I'm not going to go through all of them. But I will say that you can use the setup function here to customize your buttons, so you can pass in an array of buttons that are shown, and you can specify if the button is, again, the auxiliary button or the primary button. And you can also scroll down a little bit and you can see that there is a build function. And we'll be tying into this build function so that we can kind of customize our dialog after it's already been built. So after the dialog DOM has been created, we can hook into this build phase and we can further customize our dialog. And you can see that there's a lot of different elements, and there's also some functions that we can use within the AlertifyJS API to customize our dialog. So we're actually going to be using the set header function, which will be modifying the header div content. So let's take a quick look at how to do this. I'm going to go back to my code. Okay, and so here I've created a file called factory.html, and this is very similar to all the other ones that we've been looking at. The difference is that you can see on line 9 I'm including the Font Awesome library. And Font Awesome is just a vector-based font icon library that allows us to really easily create icons in our web applications. So I'm going to be using the Font Awesome library to simply show kind of a success in an error icon on the top of my Alertify dialog that I'll be using in my application to kind of alert the user that an action has been taken and then that was either successful or a failure. Okay, so let's dive into the code. On line 12, you can see that the first thing we want to do is make sure that we're not rebuilding the dialog each time. And this is done in the documentation, so I've done it here. So we're going to check if not alertify.showSuccess. So alertify.showSuccess is going to be the dialog that I'm creating, and I'm basically saying if this is false or if it doesn't exist. So if it doesn't exist, we're going to go ahead on line 13 and create that dialog by calling alertify.dialog. The first argument to the alertify.dialog function is going to be the name of the dialog that we're creating. And this is going to be unique to your application. So I'm going to call this one show success. The second argument is the result of the factory function. So we'll be calling function factory, and then inside there we're going to be returning an object. So you can see on line 14 I'm going to return and then use the curly brackets to represent an object that I'm returning out of this factory function. And inside that object I'm returning a property called build whose value is a function. So in the build phase, again, we're going to pass it this function, and this function, the content inside there, that's going to be executed after our dialog has been built. So after it's been built, I'm going to create some HTML. So on line 16, I'm creating a string and storing this in a local variable called HTML. It's not really important that you know all the HTML involved that's going on in here. You can refer to the Font Awesome website and their documentation to see how to use Font Awesome. But just a note, I am using the fa-check-circle class, and that is going to tell Font Awesome to create an icon that is a check mark with a circle. I'm then giving that a color, so it's a nice pretty green color, and doing some other styling here. I'm also going to add the message woohoo, so that way the user gets a nice fun message after something successful has happened. On line 18, I'm then going to call this.setHeader. Again, that's going to set the header of the dialog, and I'm passing in the string, the HTML string that I just created. to set that custom header. So that's the end of our factory function, which was our second argument to the dialog constructor function. Our third argument is whether it's a transient or a singleton object. In this instance, I'm creating a singleton, so that way that shows success. There's only just one instance of that dialog at all times. The fourth argument is the alert, and you can see here that that is the extension. So if I jump over to the documentation and go to here to the examples, to the dialogues factory, that's going to be the base dialog to inherit from. So you can see in the documentation right here that the fourth argument is the base object, the name of the existing dialog to inherit from. So I'm going to be inheriting off of the alert. I'm going to be doing the same thing on line 25. I'm going to be this time building a failure modal. This one is going to be called show failure. So again, I'm going to check that that's not already existing. And then on line 26, I'm going to call alertify.dialog, and I'm going to create a show failure dialog. The only difference here is that I'm using different class for font awesome to show a different icon, and I'm using some different text. If we scroll down a little bit, you can see down in the body that I've got two buttons now, one with a class of success and one with a class of failure. And if we look back up a little bit in our JavaScript, you can see that I'm using the success and failure classes to attach our event handlers. So on line 40, for the elements with a class of success, I'm attaching a click event handler, and inside there I'm calling alertify.showSuccess. Now the alertify.showSuccess doesn't exist in Alertify if you just downloaded it, but of course I created this dialog show success because this matches the name that I created up here on line 13. So now I can call alertify.showSuccess, and that's going to work just like any other dialog in AlertifyJS. So in this instance, I'm calling alertify.showSuccess, and I'm passing in the message, cool, everything worked. On line 45, I'm also attaching an event handler to our failure button, and on line 46, I'm calling alertify.showFailure. This time I'm passing in the message, something went wrong. So now if we jump over to Google Chrome and take a look at this, if I click on Show Success, you can see here now I get my Show Success dialog that I created with our custom icon and the message. And if I click Show Failure, I get my custom icon as well, and again my message that I customized, something went wrong, and I can click OK. Very cool. So you can see how the dialogues factory is very powerful. It has a lot of extension and customizing, so that way you can really build dialogues that are used throughout your application using AlertifyJS. I hope you've enjoyed following along with this tutorial, and again, thanks to Mohammed for letting us create this. And go ahead and go to AlertifyJS.com, click download, and get started building pretty browser dialogues and notifications in your web applications. Enjoy.